Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, nothing much to report. As I mentioned in the last video, you're seeing this on Saturday, so tomorrow I will be out with my team and we'll be riding just across the other side of the valley here. It'll be an interesting trial because it's a different person that's putting on. It's got a beautiful rocky stream that runs through a sort of little feeder one coming down into the main valley, and the chap who always put the trial on before, no matter how many times you've sort of mentioned it, you know, very diplomatically, they didn't use the stream at all. He would be up on side hills all the time, round trees and over logs. So a friend of mine is putting this on this time, and he said he's not only using that stream, but there's another smaller stream that runs into it and he's using that as well. So it all remains to be seen whether we get some more interesting sections, but you won't know about that until next week. Okay, as I say, nothing much happening, fine weather continues. So first thing I'm going to do is weld this up, and then because we've got a piece here that's got to go in there, and then a piece that's going to go down here, it's going to get a bit difficult. I've got to work out exactly the order I'm going to do this. So what I think I'm going to do is weld this up, Laurie, put a solid piece in here, cut at this end to fit that, we'll bend a piece to go in there, and then perhaps even make the top mounting so I can get this mounted firmly, and then I'm going to mark from underneath to make sure I get this down piece in exactly the right spot, because this isn't exactly centered. As you know, the engine plates, I did sort of have a comment that I could have split the difference, but you know, why be working in 16ths when I could just make it half an inch one way and 3/8 the other? Didn't make any difference. There was no clearance problems or anything. So I think it'll, rather than trying to decide where this down section is going to go, weld it in and find it's wrong, let's say I'll make this bottom part solid, and then when it's in we'll mark it, and then we'll just cut it out. Alright, so let me weld this first part up, and then we'll go over to the bike and see what's what. Right, there's that welded. While it's cooling, let me show you something. I thought I'd put a clutch cable in so that I knew I had enough space underneath. There's the engine end of a brand new clutch cable, supposedly for BSA singles. Here is a proper BSA one. The ball end isn't that important, as long as that fits in, that'll be fine. But look at this, see, there's a top hat that goes into the casing. This one doesn't have it. So probably they sell these top hats separately and split, because this is a Barnett cable, so I'll have to have a look in their catalogue. But you know, this is supposed to be a pattern part. This is the original. So what did they pattern it on? Alright, yep, that's cool. I'm back again. It's a windy morning. Here's that cable I just showed you. Won't go in. Looked in my box of cables. Here's another brand new one. See? That's what it should be like. How's it gone? See? Unbelievable. Right, so I set things up for clearances. I've put the third cable. Oh, hold on please. That was one of our newer riders, seeing if he could come and practice. So he's coming tomorrow, so I won't be working in the workshop tomorrow morning. Alright, let's say I put in a third attempt to find the right cable in there, so I know how much space I need to bottom. This ruler is actually clamped through the bearing hole for the gearbox, so that I know roughly where the chain is going to be, although it's not going to come up this high. So that's going to go in there. Like that, actually with it barely sitting on this, like the thickness of a piece of cardboard. That's going to be fine. Right, so what shall we do next? I think I'll make one piece that comes up here, up there and up there, so that is going to be my weld on both sides. Now I'm going to have to cut that slot out of this first, because I think it'd be a bit too difficult trying to cut it in. So let me go and mark a piece of alloy, and then we'll see about putting that piece in. And then see that piece there is the bit that's going to be on there, but of course it's not going to be complete because there's going to be a hole in it down there. So I think what I'll do, yeah, is we'll put that, actually the easiest way to mark that might be once it's in. I think I'm going to mount this on there. And down there. Well, I can't get it that side. I was going to say I'll drill it, tap it, because it's 1/4 inch, it'll take a... I mean, I could put a bolt right through and just put a nut on this end. I have to think about that. But what I was going to say is, once that's in there like that, I can measure from here to the engine plate on both sides, and then know it's another 1/4 inch, so I can give it, say, 5/16 on each side, and that should give me enough room to slot down there. Okay, so let me go and fathom out where this cut is going to be on this bottom plate. What I'll do is I'll make a piece of cardboard up so that I can mark down and get it right. So there's our piece of cardboard in there. So what I've got to do now is mark it there. Right, now I know I can measure some of it, but some of it's going to be a little bit difficult because it starts to slope. Right, so let me see if I can get that done. So the first bit is I've marked it in from there, each side measured, so we can cut this, put a few extra bits of tape on to keep it a little stiffer. Now I'm going to cut this out, and this takes us basically up to the curve, I think. And then I can use this, take this off here and use this as a template. Put my piece of alloy. Where are we? A bit like doing something in a mirror this way. Right, so now all I need is to know how much of a curve that's going to be. See, it's not actually a curve, is it? It's going to come down here a bit. And that, oh, that's true. I don't have to worry about it being a curve so much under there, just so long as it comes down far enough and goes across. The curve at the top is just to be a little make it look a little better. right? These ends didn't come out quite right, so I'm going to square them up. Alright, let me cut this bit out. So now it fits around that, sits in there. So as I say, I'm going to measure into the engine plates on both sides, and then I can mark that. It just struck me actually as I was doing it that I didn't want it to be round at the bottom, because at the bottom it's where it becomes that long box that's going to come down here. So far so good. Don't know how much use this extra little bit is going to be here. What is it? Not much off being a box. It's going to be what, 40 by 30. Well, 4 by 3, that's 12 by 4 and a bit. It's going to be about 50 cc's on each side that'll hold, as opposed to me bringing it up here. So there's another 100 cc's, not to be sneezed at. Actually, while I've got that like that, we might be able to, let's measure the volume of this. Right, so I've put some pieces of cardboard in, just where that is. Now the bit we're going to lose here, see, we're going to get more because there's going to be, the tube there. It's going to be about equal to the piece we'll gain at the bottom. So a nice soft bag that should fill up easily. There's 500 ml. And this bag's opening out enough in there. Because if it isn't, I don't have a litre. Sure, it's going into all the corners. So we just got a litre. Let me just it's gone down a bit. It's filling corners. And there's still space at the top. Yeah, so we've got a litre, fractionally more than a litre. Only just, could have made it longer at the front, but never mind. A litre is ample for that. I think that's about what size those tanks you used to get from Sammy Miller were. I think they were just a litre. Alright, let me get this water out of here and then we'll see about doing some more cutting and welding. And there's my measurements in the bottom, right? That's measuring in from here and adding the 1/4 inch for the wall each side. And I measured down from the top and out from here to get that bottom line. So let me cut that out, and then I'm going to cut out this piece. I've just thought of me wanting it to be curved at the top means that this piece I put in here is going to have a curved section at the top half and a square section at the bottom half. So we'll see how that comes out. You never know, I might end up squaring this top bit off just to make it easy. But anyway, let me cut this out, take that piece off and get a bottom piece made. There's the piece cut out, and as you'll see I've got the bend marks on different sides. See, I put it in the brake so I can see that bend and I'm coming in the right direction. Then I've got to turn it over and bend that, then I've got to turn it over and bend that. Right, we're ready to do our bending, but this is another day because I've got a little story. Sunday I went out and rode on the standard Enfield, and after the last section I come downhill to the workshop, and all the way down the hill I had pop 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 in the exhaust. So when my friend phoned on Monday and said he'd like to come and ride on Tuesday, I thought I'd better have a look at that. So just before I went up for lunch on Monday I thought, let me start it and see what's what. No compression when I kicked it over, no compression at all. I could turn it over with my hand, there was nothing. So had some lunch, came back, I thought, I wonder if one of the push rods has tightened up. So that means taking the exhaust off, took the little cover off, the push rod was just laying there. It wasn't even on the tip of the cam follower. So stripped it all down, took the head off. The exhaust valve was about a 1/4 inch off the seat. It was stuck. So I guess it must have been sticking as I came down the hill and then sort of parking it up and it getting cold, bump. So I took it along to steam shops and we had a look at it. There was no mark on the piston, it hadn't touched the piston, the valve stem was still straight, so we cleaned everything up. And of course steam shop has the guide reams in one, actually it might even be half thou, but certainly 1 thou increments. So we cleaned up the guide, made sure everything was right. I came back, put it in, I ground it in, did a kerosene test, the head held everything fine, so put it all back together and now it's running. So there you go. And of course I've got a trial this weekend. Well, yes, this weekend. I get out of track of where you are. Right, now then, let's think. How much of a bend do we want in this? Just about that much, I think. Hang on. Okay, let's have a look, see. Fraction more. Oh, the day's starting off with more lorries. I know I should measure these angles and all the rest of it, but oh, that's good for that. Then we're going this way. Whoops, much too much. Let me go and straighten that out a bit. Alright, there's that about right. So now we've got to do, oh look at that, I just can't get it in. Alright, these are only little, I'll go and do them in the vise. So there's that all welded up. And there's a cardboard template that goes in there. round it at this end. But squared off there. So I'll cut a piece of alloy and anneal it, and then we'll see about getting it to fit. Alright, so there's our piece annealed. See, it's got a curve in the top, that's why it goes around the round part. So that's actually 1.5 inches, so we want it to be a little bit wider each side. This of course isn't actually round, this cutout, so what I'm going to have to do is finagle the edges a little bit, but I just want to get it pretty close. I know my hands are in the way all the time here. See, that's pretty near. But the next thing we've got to do, you see, is square this end. So we need a block for that. That's too big. It's about, whoa, look at that. Spot on. Right, let me get set up. I got it on the block, I put a clamp on it. It's not clamped up really tight, and the block only goes in about 1/2 inch, because I want this to be able to Alright. Well, I didn't get that square in the centre. Bugger. Might have made a mess of this. Now, why doesn't that fit in there? Of course, I haven't taken into account the thickness of the... So that should have been fine. Just needs tightening up. Let me tip-tap on this a bit more. Well, it's getting closer each time. I think what I'm going to do is tack it in a couple of places and then sort of shape it in situ. So let me get on with that. Not my neatest bit of fabrication, but there it is, rounded at the top, square at the bottom. So I think what I'm going to do next is put the filler in, because, well, actually the brown piece will stay in the hole, so I won't it. But anyway, I want to do it so that I know where things are going to go up through there. So hang on, let me walk this over to the bike. So there it is on there. Gotta keep knocking that wheel over. Yeah, that's just nice. Let's say that must be the thickness of a piece of cardboard there. I think that will be fine. 12 piece in there. So we want to fill a cap here. And the thing I've got to remember is I've got to be able to get, well, you know, I always put the return tube up inside. Maybe I'll put the return tube on the outside this time. Put it going in the back. Because as you know, that box that's going to, the long thin box. Anyway, let me cut this hole and we're going to turn up a filler neck and a stopper. I haven't moved because I've just thought, no, I wanted to come up above the oil level. So it's going to come up into the filler neck, same as I usually do, just under the cap. So I think we'll make this a reasonable height. We've also got to have a vent, of course, which I may put on the cap instead of in the neck. Alright, I've decided where I want the hole. It's going to be there so that it's more or less above that box that goes down for those to come up. So I can't grip this too tightly because I'm worried about crushing the sort of box of it. But it's in there so it can't move. And guess what? It didn't stick in there, so I'm glad I didn't weld the bottom up. There we go. So there we have our hole. There's that, and that's going to be a nice tight fit. So it'll hold that in place while we're I'm not going to make it that tall, of course, but this is the piece of tube I'm going to make it out of. Now the next thing to do is to make a bung to go in there. We'll put our usual rubber O-ring to hold it and a knurled top. I want it to be a moderate height because I say I need to take, see, when I put a little tube on there to be the vent, it's really it's awkward to weld underneath it, I have to admit. We'll see. Right, I've got a piece of 1.5 inch round stock there, and actually I may even have, this may be left over from making a bung because that's just the right size to go on there. So I'll turn this back bit more because we want enough space to put an O-ring in, and then we'll knurl it and then we'll cut it off. I think that's about right. We want it to go in, as I say, far enough for an O-ring. I might have to put the vent in the top because I don't want this, you know, I don't want a huge piece sticking up really. We'll see. I mean, I can always make another one of these. So let me just turn this to fit this. Right, so I've turned that down as much to the depth I want it. I've got my cut-off tool in because I don't actually have any contour tools. I really should get some, I suppose. But it is the right size because this is an 1/8 O-ring. So that's the idea of this, because it's 1.5 with 16th wall, so it's 1 3/8. So this is an O-ring with a 1 3/8 OD, and obviously it's an 1/8 thick, so it's a 1/4 inch off 1 3/8. It's 1 1/8 ID. So anyway, I'm going to just touch it off, take just less than 1/8 off. Let me check the thickness of that O-ring. There's no point ruining this, is there? So we don't want to squish it. 121. So we'll go in about 120. No, we won't. We'll go in less than that. Okay. We'll just turn this down to 0. So let's go in, let's say 110. So that's 55. Right, I'll go in 50 and we'll see what that's like. Yes, alright, another senior moment. I didn't want to take a 1/16 off each side. I didn't want an 1/8 off the diameter, did I? I wanted an 1/8 either side. I don't know, one of those days. Alright, so there we go. Right, that's a nice, for the oil filler cap, that's fine. Okie doke. So next thing to do is to knurl this. Then I'm going to drill out some of the centre just so that it's not solid. Right, knurling tool in. Yes, that's nice. That's nice. That'll give me a good grip. So let me just drill my hole in and then cut it off. You don't really need to see that. Right, so one filler cap made. All right. Very good, so let's see how much we want this to be. Well, there's the neck on, and I'm quite pleased with that, look. Well, a little rush of blood there. And I've got my vent on, and the vent is just below the cap. So that's nice and tight. Perfect. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. Let's go see what it looks like on the bike. There we go. Quite pleased with that. By the time we've got our seat on, with its, I might put a, actually I think this time I'm going to put a deeper sort of skirt so that I can let the airbox be a little bit lower, get more airspace in there. Doesn't seem to be bothering the Enfield. It's not gasping or anything, everything seems to be fine. But that would be better. Alright, so the next thing we've got to do is make that square bit. And of course, that'll be the end of the oil tank for this week, because I don't have any alloy tube. That was the last little bit I had that I made there. So I'm going to need to put some alloy tube there. You know, I could even make the return go in there, couldn't I? Down the back, put another one of those on. Whoa, I never thought of that. Now that's tall enough, I could put the return in there. And then put the hose down. Whoa, I think I'd be able to get at it to weld it. Well, think about that. Anyway, let me make up the piece to go down there. You know what? That is not only a good idea, but the bit of tube I have left is actually an old feed. I could just put that in there, and then I have enough to go on the bottom as well. Ooh, yeah. I'm still here thinking, look, I've just tried a bit of tube. It'll actually, I might have to cut the corner, just the corner off there to give it a little bit more space, but how about that? And that'll be well away from the exhaust. I think that's a pretty damn good idea. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Just cut a piece of that because that's the right size to go in there. Yeah, I've got enough time to do that tonight. Okay, let me do that. There it is. I put a couple of little bends in. When it goes in there, it points down, so it's not going to squirt oil towards the vent. I might cut that a bit shorter actually, so that the hose goes on further, so there's more of a curve here to the hose. I just didn't have quite enough of that to make a bend, and I wanted to get it done, so the hose is fine. Alright, let me zoom you out a bit. Hold your seats. Yeah, definitely. Just cut that little bit so that the hose goes onto there. And of course you've got to remember this is the return side, so there's not a lot of pressure in it. This is pretty stiff hose. I can use slightly more flexible hose. Because actually that's going to be further back. It's going to be more like that. That is pretty good. Clears everything. Do the bit underneath. And I only have one line to come off the bottom. That is really good. I'm glad I thought of that. Yeah, I'm really chuffed with that welding. Okay, it's a lot better than this. Alright, knocking off time. Good morning. Right, time to make our box to go in here. So I've actually had a little look at this, and I think I can make the hole I made bigger. So I've put some red dye chem on, and what we're going to do is we're going to put that in there where it's supposed to go. As I say, I was going to make the brackets, but I didn't. And then what I've got is this to a point. I'm going to press it on the inside of the engine plate and scribe, hopefully. If I can get my hand up there to do this. Hang on. I'll put a couple of blocks on it just to hold it. As I say, that's why I was going to put the mountings on, and then it would have held it in place, but I can stick my finger through this hole. The body's still moving. Right, that's that side done. Can't get my finger in here. All right. See, that's the beauty of using the die chem. You don't really have to scratch the metal, you just have to break through the die. See, I could make it a lot bigger, which is nice because that means more volume. Right, so I'll still cut these on the inside of those to make sure. Now what I'm also going to do, which actually makes making the box a little more difficult, is we're going to do it like that. So I was losing a bit of space, and so I think that'll go much better. What I'll do is I'll make the piece of alloy will be sort of like a butterfly. I'll have that on one side, then the thickness of this, and then that on the other side, and then we'll fold that, and then we just got to put a piece along this edge here. Right, so let me go and cut this. So there's the piece marked out, and as I say, we'll fold it that way, and then we'll make a piece of the front. And I've done it again. I always mark these out and then think I'll anneal it. I should anneal it and then mark it out. But anyway, let me anneal it. Well, let me cut it out, and then we'll anneal it and bend it. Now, moving right along, there it is, bent up. As I say, I have to put one piece in there and our tube in the bottom. I was going to tack it in to try it, and I thought, oh no, some tape will hold it. So, goes in, and it sticks out about 1/4 inch out the bottom. Very nice. Okay, so let me weld that in, and then we'll make the other piece. So, got that welded in. We know that fits. Like so, very nicely. Right. So the next stage is the bottom part. So for that, I've made up this piece here, which is going to go on there like that. First of all though, we've got to weld a piece in the bottom, and that is going to be the feed, the oil feed to the engine. So let me go and weld that in and weld this onto here. Alright, so there's that in the bottom. Usual combination of nice welds and crappy welds. I know what it is. I'm going to say it's because I'm getting older. I have trouble keeping my hand, both hands actually, both the hand with the torch and feeding the rod. So I'm going great, and then for some reason I sort of get stuck. I put a bit too much heat in, I have to blob too much, so I'm trying. Anyway, that goes in there without any problem. So the next thing we're going to do is that bit there could have been further in, or this could have been further out. But it goes in, it doesn't catch on anything, so that's fine. Alright, just out of interest, let's stick a bit of rubber hose on this and see what the actual capacity is. So I've got the hole at the bottom bunged up. Of course, we'll also find out how many leaks I've got in my weld. Oh, actually that's dripping out of the little bung I put in the bottom, I think. Yes, it is. So we'll get this done quickly, and barely a drip. There we go. There's a litre. That's filled up to 500 again. It holds 1150. That's fine. And then don't forget there's hoses, there's what's in the sump and everything. So we got our litre. That's very good. And as I say, the only place it's leaking is out of the hose at the bottom. That's not bad. I did go back and see a little, one or two little pinholes. Very good. Alright, sarnie and a cup of tea. So I've made one little knee bracket. They're going to bolt onto there. There'll be one on the other side. So I've got it bolted on. I've got the tank set the way I want it. So I'll weld this side. Then I'll take it off and weld it up properly. Right, so there's the bottom mountings on. They're nice big ones. Made them with 1/8. And as you can see down here, look, there's plenty of room for the cable. Now I'm not going to do the top mountings yet, because I'm about to run out of time. But I also have to make the airbox thing to go in here, and that's going to need a mounting. So I might be able to double up somewhere, because you know that's a good, as I said, a good solid mounting there. Would be nice to have a mounting at the front, but of course there's nowhere to put it at the front. Well, that's not exactly true. There's, hang on, can you? Just here, there's a hole. That's for a little clip that goes in to hold the alternator wires. I could make something out of that. But I think if I put something at the back at the top, probably only on one side, but that and the airbox mount in one, I think that'll be fine. Alright, so anyway, as I said, that's it for this week. That's annoying, I don't know how that got to be like that. I'll dress these up a bit more. But if I look at this and don't think it's brilliant, all I've got to do is look at that welding there and think, wow, I wish I could do it like that every time. Okay, or the filler cap. Filler cap's nice. But that's it. Come on lorries, it's gone 5 o'clock, you should be home by now. So there we've got our oil tank with about 1200 cc's of oil to circulate. God, there's another one. Anyway, until next week, and Probably won't be doing much on Monday because I'll be recovering from the trial. But anyway, until I see you again, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.